Morning. Good to see all of you. Yeah. So this morning we want to focus on the verses just read for us earlier. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 7 says, "We now have this light shining in our hearts." All right. But we ourselves are like fragile clay jars containing this great treasure, and this make it clear that our great power is from God, not from ourselves. So my friend, this morning, we all know one of the ways to show that you care is through sharing. Isn't that true? All right? Turn to your neighbor and say, sharing is caring. So every year, knowing that some students may skip their breakfast to focus on their O-level results or O-level exams, the chaplaincy team actually offer prayer and breakfast very early in the morning, just to show our support to be with them and for them. So can we give a round of applause for our chaplaincy team? All right, by being there for them. As you know, caring doesn't have to be something big. Sometimes it can be as simple as offering our physical presence and being there for them. Like what we did last Saturday, Anderson's and Matthew organized a very simple walk for all of us, and I invited 2 Central students to join us. And through their walk, it's a very simple activities, but yet through their walk, all right, we show a lot of encouragement and care and hearing from one another, and then know each other better. So sometimes caring doesn't do something really big. It can be just as simple as just being there for them. Now we know that food are getting more expensive, isn't that true? Right? And so there's this old man, ordered a hamburger with his wife, all right, and French fries and the drink for their dinner. So the husband cut the meal in half, one to himself and the other one to his wife. And then he took a sip of the drink, his wife took a sip too, and then they set the cup down in between them. So as he began to eat his first bite, the husband, of the hamburger, now the people around them was looking at them. They sort of pity the couple. Oh, they must be, because of inflation now, they have to share their meal. And, it's like all they could do, ting tam, one couple must share one McDonald's meals, right? So a young man, out of kindness, walked to the table and offered, "Uncle, auntie, can we buy a meal for you?" But the old man said, "We are just fine, young man, it's okay. We are used to sharing everything." And so the young man walked back to his seat. But then the young man began to notice that the old lady had not been eating, or even eaten a bite. She would just take a sip of the drink and then watch her husband eat. So this time, the young man felt pity for the lady, the couple again. So she walked to the old lady and said, "Is that okay that I buy you something?" But the old lady, right, said, rejected his offer gently and said, "Young man, it's okay. Thanks for the offer, but we are used to sharing." Finally, the husband finished his portion, wiped his face with wet tissue, but the old lady had yet to eat a single bite of food. And so the young man came over again and asked, "Auntie, what is it you are waiting for?" Then the old lady answered, "My turn for the thief." All right. Caring for God's people is not always a pleasant experience, right? Sometimes those we pour our lives to serve can turn on us and attack us. Paul was a caring and a very humble pastor. And yet he faced many persecutions, as we read earlier, and disappointments. He was kidnapped, beaten, threatened, imprisoned many times, even bitten by a snake that almost killed him. His partner and friends, those who are so-called his co-worker, let him down when he needed them the most. Some of his church members in Corinth spread rumors about his ministry. His ministry is too weak, ineffective, poor. This man lack charisma. And so they began to question, spread the rumors about whether is God truly with Paul, arguing that if God is with him, Paul would be very successful today and not suffering. And this is where Paul responded in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7. We now have this light shining in our hearts, but we ourselves are like fragile clay jars containing this great treasure. This make it clear that our great power is from God, not from ours. I feel like I was trying to put myself in Paul's shoe, and I feel this is what he's trying to say. He's trying to say that, yes, you are right. I do not deserve this ministry. And probably I'm the least person to qualify for it. Because I'm just like the fragile clay, weak, sinful. But I'm doing what I'm doing because God, in His mercy, has given me this ministry. And He's saying, continue to say, but I'm not suffering for nothing. I'm suffering because I have this light shining in my heart. I'm suffering for the message of the cross, and I will not give up. For God has given me something very precious, my relationship with Jesus. And so my suffering is neither a result of being an unfaithful minister of the gospel, or is it because God does not love me anymore. Rather, God has a purpose. He has deliberately chosen me, someone who is fragile and unimpressive, in order to show that the great power is from Him and not from me. And so I believe the letter to the Corinthians church, it is more than just addressing doctrinal issues. If you read Corinthians before, you'll see there's a lot of issues that Paul tried to address about marriage, about law. But as I read the Corinthians, it is more than just about addressing doctrinal issue, but it's a pastoral message. It's a pastoral message to the congregation. It's a pastor's heart that's trying to share to his people that despite his suffering, even caused by his own people, he chose to forgive them. And even urge his members to do the same to restore the relationship with those who had falsely accused him. As I read this, I think many of us can identify, especially those who have been serving, ministers or leaders, and those, whether you are a leader of the church or you're doing usher, you're doing the sound, and those who have been serving, you agree with me that ministers are like any one of us, fragile clay that can be broken. Isn't that true? It's not about how perfect you are. We are just like that fragile clay that can be broken. As I read this, I also look at every one of us who have been serving for many years in CHS, and I know that 8 years ago, I was here, you are serving. 8 years later, or 10 years later, I'm back, and you're still serving, you're still at the same position. And every time I look at you, I look at your face, I look at your service to the church, I would say that in my heart, I was very, very grateful. I thank God for each one of you who have been serving faithfully in ministry. And it's not easy for many of you because you are not like us. I'm a minister who is paid. But you have your work outside. And your service to the church is more than just about paid. You are serving for the Lord. And I want to say to you, those who have been serving CHS, I want to say to you, thank you for all your service unto the Lord and to one another. Ministry is never easy, but you never give up. You persevere. So shall we give a round of applause to all the leaders, those who have been serving, those who are at the back. All right, big or small, I want you to know that every contribution you make, it matters to the church. And next week, the leaders of the DG, all right, the cell group leader, we will be coming together also to pray and to minister to one another, to seek God together. So do keep us in prayer. While preparing today's sermon, I came across the very fascinating bird, all right, sandhill crane. Have you heard of it before? sandhill crane, one of the oldest birds in the world. And as I read about their behavior, their uniqueness, there are three remarkable qualities that stood out about them. And one of them is the call. No, just joking. Yeah. And the first thing that I learned about this bird, one of the older birds, is that when they fly, no single bird stay at the forefront all the time. That means you won't see like one bird always take the lead. They somehow, there's this rotation, right, when to lead. That's very, very interesting. Secondly, stronger leaders among them emerge to take the lead. When there's a turbulence or something, resistant, the stronger one will somehow take the initiative to lead. And lastly, one more interesting about this bird is that when one lead, the rest horn in support. It's very, very interesting. All right, very, very interesting. And as I look at this, I say, hey, I thought this is exactly what church should be like. This is a very good model of a caring community. Everyone learn to serve. It's not just a pastor or those who are better to serve. Everyone should learn to serve. And the stronger one must step out to help the weak, especially during the difficult time. Most importantly, regardless of who is leading, we must consistently show our support and uphold one another, just as the sandhill cranes horn in affirmation. All right, turn to your neighbor and say, paw, paw, okay, horn, right? Paw, paw, right? I think that's what we should do for one another, right? Whoever is leading, whether it's big or small, those who are not doing that day, paw, paw, hey, do a good job. Hey, we are with you. Isn't that true? I think this is what church should be like, that we always stand behind one another, give affirmation, give encouragement. But brokenness is inevitable. It's something that we cannot run away. Why? Because we are serving broken people in a broken world. You like it or don't like it? No, yet. All right. So we are serving among the broken people in the broken world, and we will hurt one another. Not just people will hurt you. You will also hurt one another. We will hurt one another because we are hurt people. This is a broken world. So no matter how good we are, we still have cattle in us. Cattle, right? Turn to your neighbor and say, ouch. We have cattle in us. It's a matter of time. We will hurt one another. It is something that is inevitable. But our God, remember, He's a compassionate God. When you are hurt, He draws near to you. When your spirit is crushed, He will rescue you. How many of us are familiar with kintsugi? Have you seen that before? Kintsugi? Put your hand. Okay, a few. Huh? All right. Okay. Go and read something about this. This pottery, the arts. It is the Japanese arts of repairing broken pottery. So rather than throwing away when it breaks, rather than throwing it away, what they do is that the potter put back together the broken pieces and glue the crack with gold lacquer and make it into something very unique and beautiful. Kintsugi reminds us life is fragile. Our life is fragile, like the fragile jar. Pain and disappointment will come, but they can be reconstructed into something even more beautiful if we place them in the hands of God. God can turn it into something beautiful for you when we place our brokenness to Him. 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to learn the arts of pottery. And I realized that it was far more difficult than I expected. Can we have the next slide? And one valuable lesson, all right, I learned, look very cool. Okay, I'll tell you the whole story, all right. One valuable lesson, all right, I learned is that in order to make a nice vase or a nice vessel, it is crucial to keep the clay centered during the spinning process. And it requires a steady hand, focus, and patience. It's really not easy. And after hours of practice, finally I managed to create a bowl. Not the one on my hand. That one is a fake one, right? It's the one on my right, the one that out of shape, that one, okay? That's one that I make. Okay. After hours, there's so much I can do, right? The other one is for show only. Yeah. It's really not easy. But we thank God. We thank God. God is our potter. His hands is not like mine. His touch is firm, skilled, confident, and only produce the best outcome. And God does not make mistakes. So when your life is like the fragile clay on the spinning wheel, we know what it's like to be spin, what is going on with my life, and very, very uncomfortable, very, very trying. I want to encourage you, when you're in a spinning, centered and trust in the guiding hands of the potter. Remain centered, remain focused in the guiding hands of the potter, your Father, who has a firm hand, confident, and very sure, and who only produce the outcome, the best outcome for you. So don't get distracted. Don't get disheartened. Don't get too disappointed that to the point that you lose yourself. Remain centered in the presence of God. Yes, it's not easy. Remain centered because God's hand is firm. He will know how to guide you. He will know how to shape you. And He will know how to bring the best out of you. So maybe this morning you come to church spinning. Don't get distracted. Don't be over-discouraged. Remain your focus in God and trust in His guiding hand. So no matter how fragile you are today, there's a good news I want to share with you as what Paul shared with us. No matter how fragile, how broken, always remember that you have the greatest treasures in your heart. You have the great treasures in your heart. Your relationship with Jesus. That is God's gift to you. That is the treasures in your heart. Your relationship with Jesus. And Paul says, what shall we say about such wonderful things as this? If God is for us, who can ever be against us? Since He did not spare His own Son, gave Him up for us all, won't He also give us everything else? So be courage for the Lord. Amen? Yeah? And yet, brokenness is necessary. Brokenness is inevitable, and yet it is necessary. Because without brokenness, there is no forgiveness. Without brokenness, there is no restoration. Without brokenness, there is no healing. Without brokenness, Jesus cannot dwell in your heart. Without brokenness, we cannot serve. His light cannot shine through us and bless others. Just as an egg, this morning I just had my breakfast at Toast Box. And I love simple meal every morning, all right? Bread and eggs. And in order to eat the eggs, what must I do? I must crack, right? I cannot just look at the egg and then suddenly, right, it go into my stomach. I must crack, right? So likewise, egg must be broken first before it can use. So we too must go through brokenness before God can work through us. In 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 8, Paul said, we serve God whether people honor us or despise us, whether they slander us or praise us. As I read the letter of Paul, there's so much pain in this man. I mean, every word that he said, every word that he writes, I mean, because I'm a pastor as well, and I mean, compared to what he has gone through, really, it's really nothing. But when I look at every single letter that he writes, there's so much tears, but yet there's so much love. His love for the people, not just people who loves him, but also people who works against him. His own friends who abandon him, his own friends who spread the news about his ministry. I look at Paul, I said, this man, I wonder how he managed to go through. It's so easy to give up. It's so easy to say, I just throw everything away and I go live my life on my own. Isn't that what many of us, when we go through that, that's what we do. Just throw. It's too difficult, God. I'm not going to serve anymore. Let people who are better than me serve. I can't, God. It's too difficult for me. And Paul went through so much more than us. As I look at him, there's so much emotion that's going through as I try to put myself in his shoes, and really, I felt that. I wonder, how did he actually stay focused? My wife and I, all husband and wife, we have numerous arguments, right? So my wife and I, not different from anyone of us. We have argument, we have our quarrel. We don't fight physically, but there are times that we are so angry with one another, we don't talk to each other. And there are times I said things that I should not say to friends, sometimes to my own children, and sometimes also to my colleagues. After I said, why I said that? There's a guilt that's going through. You feel, why like that? Or vice versa. Some people sit against you. Your workplace, someone that you love, your colleagues, someone that you trust, your boss. You thought that they are with you. Something happened, they turned around and they say, no, it's your fault. It's painful. It is painful. How do we sustain our relationship? Personally, I broke down before God and asked for His grace and mercy to shine through me. And that's what I do most of the time. Whether I'm driving, worship, when it comes back, when it triggers, I bend my knee. I come to the Lord. I say, Lord, shine through me. I'm a broken vessel. I'm fragile. Lord, shine through me. Help me, God, to just walk across. Paul said, honor or despise. Whether people will praise him for his work, whether people will despise of his work, Paul said, I come before God with a broken spirit and a contrite heart, and allow His love to be my main driving power and motivation. I let God's love to be my motivation. Not my right, not my justice, not my feeling, but God's love. May God's love be my motivation. Now, we all know about Mother Teresa for her dedicated service to the poor in Calcutta. But how many of us heard or what she had to go through for the people? It is a book that it's a story about Mother Teresa. I think it's called something Mercy. So there are a lot of stories about her or what she had to go through in order to feed the poor. And today, of course, we look at her, we admire her. Wow, what such a great woman she is. But how many of us heard the story of her pain and suffering in order to feed the poor, to those who are dying? When Jesus called her to live a comfortable life in Iran as a teacher and relocate to India, Calcutta, she asked Jesus, why me? Lord, why you choose me? I'm weak. Lord, you know that I'm fragile. I'm sinful like any others. Lord, I'm only 5 feet tall and shorter. What can a woman short as, 5 feet tall and less than that short can do for you? But Jesus told her, her own word, her prayer, she said this. She said, Jesus told her, you are, I know, the most incapable person, weak and sinful. But just because you are that, I want to use for my glory. Of course, the idea of bringing hope to a dying person seems very noble. But as I mentioned earlier, as you read through her lives, the reality of the work is exceedingly difficult and challenging. That's why God said, you have to be broken. You have to be broken. Because the work that you're doing, it has to be selfless. You must go beyond yourself and be selfless for me and for the people. Without God, it is impossible to see hope, she said. She said, if this is hell, this must be one. But she knew God will provide. But in the early stage of ministry, she faced many setbacks. It's not as smooth as what we thought. Wow. Actually, she has gone through really a lot. There was really little support from the local churches. And being a Christian then in India, she always put her life at risk. She can get killed at any time. Because at that point, Christianity is not so welcome yet. And there were moments in a letter she wrote. She wrote in a letter, she said she felt God had abandoned her. She said, I feel nothing before Jesus. I long for God. I want to love Him, to live only for Him, and yet there is nothing but pain, longing, and no love. I think this speaks to so many of us. We are at that place before. Where are you, God? Do you know what I've been going through? Where are you, God? She was there. But despite facing hardship and loneliness, we know that she didn't give up her commitment to serve the poor in India. And today, her selfless love continues to impact and inspire many people today like you and me. As I read that Paul's story, and I read Mother Teresa's story, they share a common trait. They were fragile vessels. But their willingness to be broken for God allowed His light to shine, allowed His hope, His love and healing to shine through them. Late Billy Graham said, the highest form of worship is a worship of unselfish Christian service. Paul said in Romans chapter 12 verse 1, present your body as a living sacrifices, holy and acceptable, which is your spiritual worship. Offer your body to serve one another. That is your spiritual worship. That is your worship. And it is difficult to practice Christ's humility and selfless love if our lives are consumed by our self-centeredness and focus is solely on me alone. In closing, why we serve? Why we broken our body for one another? Why we extend our love and be that broken vessel for God to shine for us? Why this is Christian calling? Why? Because at the Last Supper, hour before Jesus' death, Jesus already knew His disciple is going to abandon Him. He knew. He knew who is going to betray Him. He knew who is that person that will run away. The person will deny. Now imagine you are Jesus. You're going to bend down and wash their feet and serve them. But as you wash, at the back of your mind, you know what this guy going to do to you. This guy going to betray you. This guy going to say bad things about you. This guy going to run away from you. This guy whom you love, this guy, all right? On that day, he's going to deny you 3 times. Imagine Jesus every time wash the feet to every individual. At the back of my mind, this is the person. But what did He do? He said, to show that He really loved them, despite their weaknesses, He bent down and washed each of their feet. And as He broke the bread, He said, this is my body which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me. He then told His disciple, I have given you an example to follow. So what example is Jesus asking us to follow? What is the example? during the washing of feet, when he was on the cross, his focus was fully on his disciple rather than his own suffering. His focus was not, how am I going to suffer? I'm going to be in pain. Lord, how long will it take? We can make it shorter. His first attention is not my suffering. His first attention is, I want to tell you, whatever you're going to do to me, I still love you. I know you're going to betray me. I want you to know I still love you. I know you're going to deny me. I want you to know I still love you. His mind and his heart was not on the suffering, was on every individual disciple's face. You are my beloved one. I've come for you. And I've done this for you. Therefore, now you have received my love. Do the same for one another. Do the same for other people. We break for one another because He has first broke His for us. I just want to have a worship team to come prepare our hearts. I want to share with you something very personal. As I was trying to round up my sermons, what is something, Lord, you're saying to you and to me? God, what is something that you want us to hear from you? Or what is something you want to speak to me specifically? And so I was preparing my sermon. I was in the car. I'm waiting for, maybe is there something that the Lord wants me to learn today? And as I was praying, I broke down with gratitude. I broke down with gratitude. Because as I thought of the holy task, the holy gospel, why would God entrusted me with such a task? I'm a fragile jar. I'm a broken man. But God yet entrusted me with such a holy ministry. Everything that God has given to us is a holy ministry. Do you know that whether you are serving at the front, at the back, your worship, do you know that every instrument you play, every voice that you do is a holy ministry, whether you're serving as a leader? Any task that God has given to you, it is a holy ministry because it's from God. You get what I'm saying? It is not from man. God gave you the ministry. It is God's ministry. It's a holy ministry. And yet God, this is what I'm giving to you. Serve. Why would God give me such a holy task? Why would God's presence, holy, perfect, King of kings and Lord of lords, and yet He say, Joe, I live in you. How? A broken, fragile jar, a broken man, whom God see all my weaknesses, God see all my brokenness. Imagine every day the thoughts that you have, everything that you said, everything that you do, God knows. You get what I'm saying? God see. What is there to hide from God? What we say to one another, how we hurt one another. God see. I was sitting down there and said, God, you saw everything about me. And yet the Lord say, I am in that fragile jar. I am the treasure. I am in that brokenness. I don't know about you. I'm just so thankful. Why would God give me such a task? Why would God stay in this broken jar? Except because He loves us. Because He loves you. Because you are important to Him. His focus is never just about your weakness. His focus is never just about, what you can't do for Him. His focus is always about you. What can I bring the best out of you? What can I bring the best? What can I do for you to bring the best out of you? What is something that can serve you so that you will know that I love you? I know that you will betray. I know that there are times that you deny me. I know, I've seen that. I've seen that. but my focus is still on you, because you are my precious one, because I've died for you, because I love you. And this is why we worship God. The God who look beyond our weaknesses, look beyond our brokenness. What He remember is always, what can I bring the best out of you? What can I do for you? What can I serve you? And so as I look at that, I was just so thankful. I was just so grateful. And I keep saying, God, thank you, and thank you. And then I asked God, why? Besides that, I know I'm fragile. I know I'm broken. God, you know everything. I don't need to tell you. You know. I asked God, but what else? And then I hear this from the Lord. He said, because you seek me. Because you are willing. And I hear this from the Lord. Because you seek me. Because you are willing. May I invite us to stand? Even as we come to a close, are you willing to be broken for Jesus? Are you willing to be broken for Jesus and offer your body so that His light can shine through you and the world will know the great power comes from Him and not from you? Are you willing to be like Paul, who offer his life so that God's light can shine through him? The world will receive hope, but more importantly, the world will know the power comes from God and not from him. This is an act of worship.
Let us respond with this song.